All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order, the Alabama Environmental Management Commission. We do have a quorum today. We have a couple of members absent, one with a positive COVID test and another with an honor being bestowed upon him in Birmingham. Our first agenda item is consideration of the minutes of the meeting held on October the 9th, 2020. These have been distributed to all commission members for their perusal, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
Move to adopt the minutes of October 9th, the commission.
Second.
Would I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, and a second. All right, is there any further discussion of that? If not, everybody who is in agreement, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. All right, those minutes have passed. Amy, do you want us to wait on you to pass the sheet, or go ahead?
We won't have one for the minutes,
Okay.
but I'll pass one on the next.
Okay, all right. We now have our second agenda item is for the commission to consider the election of the chairs and members of the commission's personnel and rulemaking committee. The nominations are for the personnel committee, Tom Walters as chairman, and Kevin McKinstry and Ruby Perry as members. And for the rulemaking committee, Lanier Brown as chairman, and Jay Massengill and Mary Marriott as members. We now will entertain a motion to accept those nominations as previously stated.
Move to accept the nomination for the police committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, let's call for the question. All in favor of accepting the motion, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. I don't know what she's saying.
Just a second to fix my
Oh, time out. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a time out.
Thank you.
You ready? Okay. Well, let us finish signing this thing and then we'll. We'd like next to have our report from the ADEM director, Mr. Wilkie.
I'm going to remove my mask so you all will be able to understand me a little better. Not that I'm all that understandable to begin with, but anyway. Well, let me wish everybody good morning and welcome to the second meeting of the Alabama Environmental Management Commission for fiscal year 2021. As you know, the department is comprised of 5 divisions plus our Office of General Counsel. The work of the Air, Land, and Water divisions is reported on frequently. In August, a comprehensive report on the Field Operations Division was presented for the first time in my reports to you. Today's report will highlight the major functions of the 5th of the divisional organizations, Permits and Services. Permits and Services Division does much of the work the public does not see. The division is comprised of 4 branches and a separate section dedicated to compliance assistance. They are Information Systems Branch, General Services Branch, Fiscal Branch, External Affairs Branch, and Compliance Assistance Section. I'll review the work of each of these and give you a sense of the critical role the division plays in the department's success. Please be prepared for a lot of slides because Permits and Services has a lot of responsibilities to cover. In particular, you will note the number of activities that help keep our costs down. The Information Systems Branch is the largest branch in the division. It provides electronic tools and electronic data handling for the entire department. Most of the states operate centralized information technology departments that serve most or all state agencies, including their environmental agencies. ADEM is one of a very few environmental programs with a dedicated in-house IT staff. This has resulted in experienced staff with specialized environmental operations knowledge, low turnover, flexibility, responsiveness, quick turnaround, and focused execution, high quality work product, and low cost. In-house staff is making us more efficient and effective, which is one of our strategic and operating plan goals. The Information Systems Branch supports all divisions. We have heavily embraced e-enterprise applications to the Information Systems Branch. This automation provides us the competitive advantage to allow us to be perhaps the most efficient and effective low-cost program in the nation. The branch has a wide array of responsibilities. Many of the objectives in the annual operating plan discussed at the last commission meeting involve IT. The branch's responsibilities include acquiring and maintaining computer hardware. The branch installs, repairs, and provides consultation for the department's 400 laptops and more than 600 personal computers. Currently, the department maintains 240 servers and 400 terabytes of storage capacity. Here you see several of our IT staff standing in front of the departmental data center storage area network that houses the 240 servers and 400 terabytes of storage. 1 terabyte is, I'm getting technical here with you, 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes or 1 million megabytes. The FY 2021 operations plan calls for major computing and storage infrastructure upgrades in the coming year. The branch is responsible for overseeing software development and programming needs. The work is done both internally and by managing outside contractors. Currently, our largest outside contractor works with us on the new generation software upgrades underway that will keep us at the very leading edge in this field. This is a major objective in our operating plan. Information Systems maintains departmental databases. The department has more than 100 databases and applications. Information Systems designs those databases to allow electronic applications for such things as inspections, document access, permit applications, and monitoring reports. The software upgrades are making databases more standardized and interconnected, therefore more useful and cost-effective. The branch is also responsible for developing and maintaining e-enterprise applications. E-enterprise applications help keep the public informed by providing the public direct access to all public information. They also reduce costs for the regulated industry and ADEM. You may be beginning to see a theme. The department's website is maintained here also. One of our primary means of communication with the public is through our website. In FY 2021, one of our op plan objectives is to make the website more user-friendly. The Information System Branch maintains the GIS GPS program. This program ties information to a geographic location, making it more useful both internally to our engineers and scientists and externally for the public. The Clean Vessel Act and Boating Infrastructure Act grant programs are managed by this branch. In addition to making the department an efficient and low-cost environmental regulatory service provider, our advanced automation through the Information Systems Branch made us one of the few state agencies well prepared for the COVID-19 pandemic. The next branch under the Permits and Services Division is General Services. It makes sure public water and wastewater systems have access to funding, helps keep the department records straight, maintains the workplace in a way that helps employee morale, manages departmental assets, is responsible for good first public impression, and makes sure documents and mail get where and when they need to be. The Drinking Water and Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan programs make low-cost funding available to public drinking water and wastewater systems in Alabama. They focus on small and disadvantaged systems with limited access to other funding. In recent years, we have embarked on an expanded marketing effort to engage with systems that may benefit from the program. The FY 2021 plan calls for that effort to continue. Since 1997, the Drinking Water SRF program has made more than 260 loans totaling more than $500 million, with more than $100 million in new loans in FY 2020. Since 1987, the Clean Water SRF program has made more than 280 loans to wastewater systems totaling more than $1.2 billion, with nearly $100 million in new loans in FY 2020. As a government agency, the department must comply with many statutory requirements. The Alabama Administrative Procedures Act is one of the most far-reaching of those. The General Services Branch, along with Information Systems and the Office of General Counsel, oversees records management and retention required by the APA. Records management includes timely public notices, publications, and many other legal obligations. Under the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act, timely legislative notification of administrative rulemaking actions is also required in order for that body to provide oversight. The sheer volume of records generated in our work and the need to retain and make those records conveniently available to the public requires a significant effort dedicated to that activity. The Document Services Unit does that. Records retention has been converted largely to an electronic format called Laserfiche as part of our e-Enterprise initiative. More than 3.5 million documents with many times that number of pages have been converted to electronic format. That material occupies more than 25 terabytes of storage. As with most e-Enterprise activities, we have significantly reduced the costs of record storage, improved efficiency, and provided easy, direct public access. General Services also maintains buildings, grounds, and the motor pool. Proper management of buildings and grounds extends the life of those assets, which reduces cost in the end. Effective management has led to increased efficiency in recent years with LED lighting retrofit and radio frequency identification of furniture and equipment that increases the speed and accuracy of taking inventory. Here you see the General Services Branch Chief receiving an award from the State Auditor for having a perfect inventory audit by his staff of the more than $16 million of ADEM property, excluding land and buildings. Well-maintained physical facilities improve morale. Well-maintained physical facilities also improve the public's perception of the department. Our work requires a substantial field presence. You may recall that inspections is one of our major tools to obtain compliance, and that requires a sizable motor pool. There are 183 vehicles operated and maintained in the department's motor pool. Similar to private sector car rental companies, we have instituted automated checkout, check-in, and GPS tracking, which are key elements in effective motor pool management. This photo is about 1/5 of the motor pool inventory, along with the staff dedicated to efficient operations. Maintaining a captive motor pool rather than utilizing the centralized state motor pool results in a much more efficient and lower cost operation. The reception desk, print shop, and mailroom are managed by General Services. The reception desk is where the visiting public's first impression of our organization is formed. Greeting the public timely, professionally, and warmly is important. You probably recognize this person at the reception desk. Hers is also the friendly voice you hear when calling the main telephone number. Our work is often very technical, involving maps, charts, and other documents needing the services of a print shop. The General Services Branch meets the need quickly and accurately. Modern equipment and skilled operators means we rarely need to look outside for printing needs, which helps reduce cost. Our work also requires much formal, written, time-sensitive communication that must be handled efficiently. This is done in the mailroom. Of course, like any standalone organization in or outside state government, financial matters including documentation, execution, and reporting must be handled professionally, meaning accurately and timely. The Fiscal Branch does that. As a public entity, financial transactions by the department receive oversight from the State Finance Office, the State Comptroller, State Auditor, State Examiner of Public Accounts, EPA, the Inspector General, and independent auditors, in addition to our internal financial controls. The work is important, but not glamorous. It gets little notice unless something goes wrong. Fiscal handles our purchasing. Each year, the department has purchases of about $10 million, excluding payroll, travel, utilities, and grants. That amounts to more than 3,000 transactions per year. Fiscal manages payroll. Payroll costs, including employee benefits for our 570 personnel, make up about 80% of our $64 million annual operating budget. The Fiscal Branch recently employed an e-enterprise application that put timesheets in an electronic format to improve accuracy and eliminate the need for one full-time equivalent. Our work requires significant in-state and out-of-state travel. In a typical year, the Fiscal Branch handles about 1,700 transactions for travel expenditures totaling more than $500,000. Working in conjunction with the division chiefs, all travel is closely controlled. All department receipts or deposits go through Fiscal. Approximately 54% of the departmental revenue is fees from the 35,000 facilities we regulate. The Fiscal Branch also handles more than $20 million, or 35% of our total budget, from about 24 individual grants from EPA. Anyone who's dealt with federal government grants can appreciate the challenge of that process. Like most organizations, the department operates within a budget. Each year, the Fiscal Branch oversees federal and state budget preparation. The department, through the Fiscal Branch, must justify budget requests to EPA, the Governor's Office, and the legislature. Fiscal Branch must also provide comparisons and explanations for variances between budgets and actual expenditures to our funding sources, as well as the division chiefs, the deputy director, and the director. The department requires numerous federal, state, and private sector contracts to carry on its work. Fiscal is where we coordinate contract approvals and payments. They ensure that the department complies with state and federal regulations requiring very involved contracting safeguards to protect public funds. They also coordinate with the legislature and various departments in the governor's office that provide contracting oversight. A list of professional service contracts executed since the prior commission meeting is one of the items provided to you and the public before each commission meeting. These 3 individuals and 4 support staff manage the work of Fiscal. As the name implies, the External Services Branch is responsible for coordinating our communication outside the department. It does most of our governmental liaison work with the legislature, state agencies, and local governments. This is necessary for environmental legislation and obtaining general fund financial resources to operate the state's environmental programs. It's also necessary for coordinating with other activities of state government and obtaining regulatory buy-in from local governments. It also oversees media relations, press releases, and press conferences. These activities present the public face for the department. We began a major effort to improve communication with the public in FY 2020. We are already seeing results from that effort. External Services does additional public outreach through community engagement like workshops and public meetings as set out in our operating plan. Businesses seeking to locate in Alabama are part of the public we engage. Communicating with prospects is important in economic development. The branch provides early information to industrial development prospects on environmental requirements. This helps them start off on the right foot quickly. The department is nationally recognized for timely permitting, and that is important to new industry. That process begins with our External Services Branch. E-Enterprise again helps us here with the Permit Wizard application that allows those seeking permits to walk through the steps online to determine what forms may be required and to actually file those forms. They can even pay permit fees online. By working closely with the State Department of Commerce, External Services has helped Alabama develop a well-documented competitive advantage in attracting new jobs. The branch operates the Clean Water Act Section 319 Non-Point Source Program. That program addresses unregulated sources of pollution such as pathogens from pasture land, nutrients from agricultural fertilizer applications, and sediment from some stormwater runoff. Here is a not uncommon situation where you see both stream bank erosion causing siltation pollution and ready access for cattle in the stream that results in pathogens entering the water. The non-point source program helps address this. In a non-regulatory program, it educates individuals on better pollution control practices and helps them implement those practices. Non-point source pollution control has enormous potential to improve water quality. We created the Compliance Assistance section to work with individuals and regulated industries to help them meet the requirements in the environmental permits under which they must operate. It focuses on municipal services of drinking water, wastewater, and landfills. The program does not undertake enforcement. It seeks to avoid the need for enforcement. While each division engages in compliance assistance, the department has also set up this dedicated area to promote permit compliance. In a typical year, this program provides more than 150 assists to regulated entities. As has often been noted in my reports, the department seeks compliance primarily through proactive inspections and technical assistance. Part of technical assistance involves education in the form of testing, certifying, and licensing individuals performing environment-related activities. ADEM tests, certifies, and licenses more than 3,400 drinking water and wastewater operators in Alabama, the 130 water well drillers in the state, and are more than 450 licensed landfill operators. Since most Alabama citizens directly utilize municipal drinking water and wastewater services, and those services are often the largest energy consumers in the municipality, the department has implemented a program to assist them in controlling costs by becoming more energy efficient. Since 2014, this program has performed more than 50 drinking water and wastewater plant energy audits that have identified energy savings of more than $2 million per year. In this example, the wastewater treatment plant in Winfield, Alabama, underwent a needed capacity expansion that more than tripled its energy consumption. Implementing the Compliance and Assistance Section audit recommendations, they reduced their energy usage by more than 50%, saving that small system more than $135,000 per year. We're all about reducing costs, not only at ADEM, but also for the public. Finally, Finally, the Compliance Assistance Section houses the Ombudsman Office, where individuals and organizations not able to have inquiries or concerns addressed by others within the department where they can obtain assistance. In a typical year, more than 100 inquiries are handled. The Permits and Services Division is the largest contributor to automation, which makes us efficient and keeps our costs down. It makes sure public water and wastewater systems have access to funding and trained operators and helps them become more energy efficient. Permits and Services keeps the records straight and publicly accessible. It manages our physical assets, keeps our financial house in order, and provides the department's face to the public. It is our liaison to the legislature and potential new industry. And it addresses what I believe is one of the most promising areas for water quality improvement, non-point source pollution. Permits and Services has the lead responsibility for more of the 91 objectives in the FY21 operating plan than any other division. That's a lot to say grace over, and almost all of it is behind the scenes. Before concluding, I will note that a recent ruling by the Alabama Supreme Court in favor of ADEM. The ruling, based on standing and mootness, reversed a lower court holding that ADEM could not allow non-earthen materials for daily cover at landfills. That concludes today's report. I'll be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Director.
Okay, thank you all.
Next is the report from the Commission Chair. And again, I'd like to compliment the Director and the entire department for making a special effort to educate the Commission on hot topic issues such as the CCR, PFAS problem, and they have been very helpful in presenting factual and non-biased reporting to the Commission members, and we appreciate that. The next item is consideration of proposed amendments to ADEM Administrative Code 335.2, subpoenas. I'd like to call on the department for discussion.
Thank you, Chair Miller and Commission. I don't know if you can hear me, if it's okay if I take this off. Maybe you can better hear me that way. My name is Sean Sibley. I'm the General Counsel for the department. And before you is some proposed rulemaking that clarifies the cost associated with nominal witness subpoena fees that the commission can order the department to pay. And we received, and when I say order the department to pay, that's in contested cases that your hearing officer traditionally hears. And so the commission received a public comment in favor of it. That's, we had a public hearing back on the 12th of November, and that public comment was submitted later. And based on that and based on, our proposal, we ask that you approve these amendments. And if y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them.
Any questions for Mr. Sipes?
So this is the issue that we discussed some time back, that y'all collaborated with?
Yes, we collaborated with the stakeholder. As a matter of fact, the stakeholder submitted the positive comment approving the amendments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Thank you.
I'll accept a motion to accept or deny the proposed amendment.
Move to adopt the proposed amendment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor of accepting the proposed amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Our next item is consideration of proposed amendments to Alabama Department of Environmental Management Administrative Code 335-6, animal feeding operations and concentrated animal feeding operations. As I understand it, this is to establish new procedures for AFO and CAFO facilities to obtain non-NPDES permit coverage. I'll note that we have received numerous written comments, all of which have been distributed to the commission, that from members of the public opposed to the newly proposed amendments. Most of these comments were submitted after the closing date of the comment period for the proposed rulemaking. The mayor of Alex City proposed we postpone the vote on the adoption of these amendments of the rule and provide for a 120-day extension for comment and study of the proposed amendments. I'd like to call on the department for comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. I'm Scott Hughes, and I serve as the Chief of the Field Operations Division. You have before you the complete hearing record for the proposed revisions to the Department's Division 6 regulations that cover animal feeding operations, or AFOs, and concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. The proposed revisions will allow the Department to implement a statewide permitting process whereby AFO and CAFO operators can obtain permit coverage under either an NPDES permit or a state permit. The proposed revisions do not diminish any existing technical standards such as buffer distances, proper land application of waste, implementation of best management practices, and non-compliance reporting requirements. In addition, The proposed revisions do not impact the existing regulatory requirements regarding facility construction, operation, and closure. The current Division 6 regulations specifically prohibit discharges of any wastewater from an AFO or CAFO into a water of the state, and the proposed revisions do not diminish that prohibition on wastewater discharges. The department initiated a public comment period that began on September 20th of this year and ended on November the 4th. A public hearing was also held on November the 4th. The department received 11 written comments during the comment period, and one person provided comments during the public hearing. All of the comments have been addressed in the reconciliation statement that is included in the hearing record that is part of your package of information. The department respectfully requests that the commission adopt the proposed revisions, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Could you repeat the number of comments prior to the deadline?
The department received 11 written comments during the comment period, and one person spoke and provided oral comments at the public hearing.
Scott, were there any other interactions that you had, meetings with the public that beyond that?
There was. I'll give you a little background. The CAFO regulations mandate that once every 5 years, we open up the CAFO regulations for the public to review and provide comments on the technical parts of the regulations as well as the way we implement the CAFO regulations. So we knew coming into 2020 that was a year that we had to mandate our 5-year review. Started out with a lot of internal discussions with my staff on how we're going to best utilize our resources to regulate CAFOs and to make sure that we're protecting water quality. So as part of that 5-year review process, we initiated a public comment period on May the 10th and held a public hearing on June the 11th. The comment period closed on June the 12th as part of that 5-year mandated public review comment. We received one comment from the Southern Environmental Law Center that was submitted on behalf of 5 groups, and then we also received comments from Lake Watch of Lake Martin, which I think is the group that has submitted a lot of letters to the commission in the past couple of weeks. We spent over 2 months reviewing those comments and then issued a response to the comments on September the 1st. And I will note as part of that 5-year review, one of the comments that was submitted by Lake Watch of Lake Martin is that they wanted the department to perform more inspections of these CAFO facilities. That was one of the comments that they submitted during the 5-year review. And you know, the process that we propose now with these regulatory revisions takes that inspection process out of the hands of hired consultants that are hired by the CAFO operators and puts the inspection process into the hands of the department and our inspectors, so it gives us, in my opinion, more control over the inspection process, and it just presents a better regulatory structure for us to implement the program and protect water quality.
So the QCP people that were doing these inspections yearly, that's going to be cut back to 5 every 5 years, are hired by the capital, not by the state, not by ADEM. Is that correct?
That's correct. They are an independent third-party consultant, if you would, that's hired by the CAFO facility to come in once a year and inspect their facility.
How often would you say that these QCP inspections found anything to be concerned about?
You know, by the time we see the QCP reports, by the time they're submitted to the department, they are certifying that the site is in compliance. So what we don't know is when they actually get to the facility, what the facility looked like. So they could go to the facility, inspect it, everything may be fine, they send in their certification report and that's the end of it. Or they could get to the facility, the hired consultant, and they see issues that need to be addressed, so they give the CAFO owner, you know, a day, 2 day, whatever, and say, you need to address these issues, and then I'm going to come back and do a follow-up inspection so I can submit my certification to the department.
Are these inspections announced or unannounced, or do you know?
The QCP inspections, I'm pretty sure they're announced. I mean, if you hire somebody to come to your farm or to your house to do work, you're going to know when they're going to come so that you can be there and meet them and show them around the operations. All of our inspections are unannounced.
That's the point I wanted to make.
Correct, yes.
I Now, a lot of people go around and collect water data, soil data, et cetera, and they give those data to the department. How do you guys handle what comes in? If they think it's bad, what do you guys do with it?
Sure. We have a long history. As a matter of fact, we were one of the primary entities that provided financial and technical support to get the group Alabama Water Watch up and running. Back in the early 90s, we were approached by that group, Citizen Monitoring Watch Data, and we like that. I mean, they're kind of the canary in the coal mine. With close to 80,000 miles of rivers, lakes, and streams, we can't be everywhere every year. So we understood the importance of Alabama Water Watch, invested significantly to get that up and running, and now we use that information on a regular basis. We review their data on a regular basis. If we see something that's trending in the wrong direction, or if they notify us, hey, we're seeing bad issues in this particular creek, then we can use our in-house resources, which are a little more detailed, a little more scientific, allows us to collect a lot more comprehensive data. We can use our resources and go in and do some really detailed monitoring in those watersheds and identify, are there truly declining trends in the water quality, or is it something that we need to be concerned about?
So if the amendment allows for more inspections and you have more control, then some of the comments that I just read mean that there may be some miscommunication or misunderstanding because one of the comments was there need to be more control. What if this amendment allows that? How often, how many more inspections would you do other than the every 5 years?
Right now we in our work plan commitment with EPA, we are the hurdle is not very high with regards to inspections. They mandate that we do 30 inspections a year, which is a fairly small number. We typically do about 50 to 70, somewhere in that neighborhood. But with these proposed changes and us not having to, my inspectors not being in the office reviewing all these reports that are done by the hired consultants and being able to get out and do more inspections, it's hard to estimate, but I would think 100, 150, 200 inspections, additional inspections a year.
And it is true, as I understand it, that ADEM has nothing to do with where a facility such as a CAFO would be, or disallowing any place that a CAFO wants to build. Is that correct?
That's correct. One of the comments that was submitted by a group was that they want a moratorium on the construction of CAFOs in that watershed. They also want a moratorium on the land application of poultry litter in that watershed, and the department, we just don't have the regulatory authority to determine where somebody installs or constructs a CAFO facility. What we do is we work with NRCS and some of the other state and federal resource agencies to ensure that the land application of litter is done in accordance with standards and technical requirements and things like that that are protective of water quality.
And another comment was that,
Go ahead.
Was that ADEM did not allow enough time, and I made a note of the time that you allowed the public notices, and that you were ineffective in doing that. If you agree, well, obviously you disagree with that, because you did allow the time for them. Why do you think that they're making that statement?
Well, I can probably speculate a little bit. I mean, we obviously met all the legal requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act in our public noticing requirements. Actually, we probably went a little beyond that, because I had a personal conference call with 4 of the board members from the Lake Watch of Lake Martin group and spent well over an hour on this conference call outlining to them these 2 basic facts. One, this gives the department more control over the inspection process, which is a good thing. And the other thing is it does not diminish, as I read in my statement, any of the technical requirements, the buffer requirements, the land application requirements, the best management practices requirements, facility construction and installation. None of those requirements are impacted by this reg change. The reg change simply takes the inspection process out of the hands of the hired consultants and puts it into our hands. Now, there's one other change that we proposed having to do with continuing education requirements. Right now, I think CAFO owners are required to obtain 4 continuing education hours per year. 2 things on that front. One, we feel like if we're doing more inspections, we can allow our inspectors to perform that education and outreach to the farmers, so they're getting accurate information from the company, that the agency that actually administers the program. And 2, with the COVID pandemic, a lot of these outreach meetings, continuing education outreach that the farmers go to are public meetings at Soil and Water Conservation District offices and things like that. And not knowing how long the pandemic's going to last, we just didn't want to have a mandate in there that they have to get out and attend these meetings 4 hours every year.
So is that aspect just being eliminated, or you?
We're just setting the hours to 0 right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had another question, once I can remember what it was. But in general, though, the current regulations, I guess, like many of the regulations, they initially start out as patterned after what EPA establishes. And so we're, from my understanding, we're really going beyond what EPA was established in this area, specifically focused on giving you the ability to use the resources to do more surprise inspections. Is that
Correct. When the regulations were put into effect 20 years ago, EPA mandated that all CAFO facilities have NPDES permit coverage. And of course, we set our regulations up to mirror that, because we have to do that since we implement the NPDES program here in Alabama. Through various court rulings over the years, that authority by EPA has been whittled back, so that now EPA only requires NPDES permit coverage if a facility actually discharges or proposes to discharge. And probably for the last 5 or probably 8 or 10 years, we've been really more stringent than EPA, because we've mandated that they obtain NPDES permit coverage. We've got about 1,000 facilities here in the state of Alabama. The overwhelming majority of those are poultry facilities. Probably 98, maybe 99% are poultry facilities. They do not generate any wastewater stream. The big thing with poultry facilities is, what do we do with the poultry litter through the land application process? And as I said also earlier, the existing regulations specifically prohibit discharges, wastewater discharges from CAFO facilities into a water of the state, and this proposed regulatory change is not going to negatively impact that. Prohibition will still remain in place.
Are there any more questions from Mr. Hughes? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd now like to ask for a motion to accept or deny the proposed amendment.
I move to adopt the proposed amendment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All in favor of accepting the proposed amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Our next item is consideration of proposed amendments to Administrative Code 335-6, Water Quality Program, Underground Storage Tank Regulations. I'd like to call on the department for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. If I may remove my mask, it'll be a little easier to see and to talk here. I'm Stephen Cobb, Chief of the Land Division, and I'm here today to recommend that the Commission adopt amendments to the Department's Division 6, Volume 2 Underground Storage Tank Program Regulations. The Department is proposing revisions to these guidelines recommended and approved by the Alabama Tank Trust Fund Management Board. These amendments propose changes to Chapter 335-6-16, which is Administrative Guidelines and Procedures for the Alabama Underground and Above Ground Storage Tank Trust Fund. The proposed revisions to the chapter include new requirements for release assessments by tank owners who choose to discontinue or to reestablish their voluntary participation in the Tank Trust Fund. The proposed revisions also include new procedures to address cleanup sites that have become inactive due to the incapacity of the tank owner. In addition, the proposed revisions would change the Tank Trust Fund bulk charge to 1.2 cents per gallon as recommended by the Tank Trust Fund Management Board. Proposed revisions to the UST program regulations were the subject of a public comment period, which ran from September 20th, 2020 to November 5th, and a public hearing was held at the department on November 5th. No oral or written comments were received by the department during the public comment period. The revised regulations are presented to you today for your consideration, and the department asks that the Commission adopt the proposed changes to these regulations. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So, as I understand it, this would allow larger operators to opt out of the system, is that right?
That is correct. Actually, this doesn't allow them to do that. This provides a mechanism by which, when they do that, how they come out, what obligations they have to the trust fund, and also if they have opted out and choose to come back into coverage, what obligations they have to fulfill in order to come back into that coverage.
That was part of the question.
Yeah.
Rather than assuming that you can just come back in.
Right, because there's a liability to the fund with somebody being in, and so in making sure that those who are in the fund are treated fairly, those who are out of the fund are treated fairly, it put in place procedures of what kinds of assessments need to be done before you leave as well as before you come back.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll accept the motion to propose or reject the proposed amendments.
Move to adopt the proposed amendment.
I'm in adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Our next agenda item is consideration of proposed amendments to ADEM Administrative Code 335-13, Solid Waste Program Regulations, Chapter 335-13-5, Coal Combustion Vehicles. I'd like to call on the department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, good morning. Again, Stephen Cobb with the Land Division. Here now today to recommend that the Commission adopt amendments to the Department's Division 13 Solid Waste Program Regulations. These amendments propose changes to Chapter 335-13-15, Standards for the Disposal of Coal Combustion Residuals in Landfills and Surface Impoundments, along with a proposed change to Chapter 335-13-5, procedures for obtaining permits. The proposed revisions to the chapters include updating the state CCR regulations to reflect modifications and clarifications that have occurred in the federal CCR program since the original adoption of ADEM's Chapter 335-13-15. The proposed changes also include the adoption of the holistic approach to Closure Part A rule published on August 28, 2020 by federal EPA. In addition, the revisions include removing provisions that were previously proposed but never promulgated by EPA. These regulations provide the department with the regulatory authority to resolve issues relating to the management of coal combustion residuals generated from the combustion of coal at electric utilities and independent power producers. The proposed regulations were the subject of a public comment period that ran from September 20th to November 5th, 2020, and a public hearing which was held at the department on November 5th. No oral comments were received during the public hearing. However, written comments were received during the public comment period by the department. No changes were made to the proposed regulations as a result of the comments received. The department's response to the comments received have been provided to the commission. The revised regulations presented to you today for your consideration, and we ask that the commission adopt the changes to these regulations. Again, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Could you explain to us what the holistic approach is?
The holistic approach is one of a number of rulemakings that EPA has been making incrementally to the federal CCR regulations in response to court challenges and other issues that have arisen since the original adoption in 2015. I will have to refer back to see exactly what that exact description of the holistic changes, but it is one of a series of changes. There are more coming, but this one finally came out. I believe it had to do with legacy units and how they are treated in the regulations.
In other words, this is probably not going to be the last time we address this.
No.
As they come out.
No, we'll be back before you multiple times before this is over with CCR.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the proposed amendments.
Move to adopt the amendments.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All right, I'll call for the question. All in favor of the proposed amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're going to provide you lunch.
I was about to say, I may need a bottle of water up here in a little while.
Our next agenda item is to consider proposed amendment to ADEM Administrative Code 335-14, hazardous waste program regulation.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and again, Stephen Cobb with the Land Division. I'm also here today to recommend that the Commission adopt amendments to the Department's Division 14, hazardous waste program regulations. Revisions to the ADEM Admin Code Division 335-14 are being proposed to adopt a newly codified and revised federal rule promulgated by EPA to adjust the term length for hazardous waste treatment, storage, or disposal permits issued to disposal facilities by the department. The federal rule, which was increasing recycling, adding aerosol cans to the universal waste regulations, was finalized on December 9th of 2019. This rule adds hazardous waste aerosol cans to the Universal Waste Program and creates new management standards for universal waste aerosol cans. Additionally, the department proposes modifications to the land disposal facility permit term length to promote consistency among all permitted hazardous waste treatment, storage, or disposal facilities. The proposed revisions to the hazardous waste program regulations were the subject of a public comment period, which ran from July 26th through September 17th of 2020, and a public hearing was held at the department on September 17th. The department received one written comment in support of the current rule changes, and no oral testimony was offered at the public hearing. Regulations presented to you today for your consideration, and the department asks that the commission adopt these changes. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on this one.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the proposed amendment.
I move to adopt the proposed amendment.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? None, I'll call for the question. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Our next item this morning is to consider proposed amendments to ADEM Administrative Code 335-1, General Administration Regulations.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Russell Kelly, Chief of the Permits and Services Division. The department held a public hearing on September 17, 2020 on revisions to Division 1 of the ADEM Administrative Code. The proposed revisions include modifying and adding forms that are necessary for the implementation of the department's rules and regulations. In total, 16 forms were modified and 2 new forms were added. Additional modifications are proposed in order to restructure the hazardous waste program fees outlined in Fee Schedule C to address fees changes related to the hazardous waste land disposal facilities. The department also proposes to amend Rule 335-1-6-03 to correct the citation and Rule 335-1-6-.07 in order to correct a citation of the environmental covenants fees outlined in Fee Schedule J. It's important to note that no comments were received during the public notice and comment period. This time, I'd like to ask for your request for favorable consideration and answer any questions.
Just clarity, did you say there would be a fee change?
Yes, ma'am. There's a fee schedule change that is reflected.
Not the fee itself, but the fee
Yeah,
schedule.
some fees in that schedule that are reflective in the rules you previously adopted.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the proposed amendments.
I move to adopt the proposed amendment.
Second.
My motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Thank you.
If I could make a comment that to review 16 forms and add 2 additional ones.
Yes, ma'am.
Means that you're looking at an updating forms as you go along. I know we've already passed it. I meant to make the comment.
Yeah, typically, we have 400 or 500 forms in the department that are codified, and they are modified. There's reasons for modifying them or changing them throughout the year. So we'll collect some and then modify them periodically. In this case, we had 16 that we did modify. They were existing forms, and we made some modification to them. Usually they're minor tweaks. And then in addition, we added 2 new forms. They were completely new. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was remiss in not introducing Russell Kelly as the Permits and Services Division Chief during my report, but he's the guy. He's the guy.
He had it right when he said behind the scenes.
He was too far behind. He couldn't get that.
Is there any other business that any commissioners wish to discuss or bring up? It's been noted that we have some proposed dates for commission meetings in calendar year 2021. They're listed in your booklet there: February 12th, April 9th, June 11th, August 13th, October 8th, and December 10th, all in 2021. Does anybody here have a problem with any of those that you know of at this point? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed commission meeting dates.
I move that we adopt the meeting date.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? If not, let's call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Raise your right hand. All opposed, raise the right hand also. Passes unanimous. Now, our next, sorry about that. Our next item on the agenda is request to make public comments. We have 2 different kinds of comments that have been requested today. One is of the 10-minute variety, and the other 2 are of the 3-minute variety. First, I'd like to ask the commission, would you like to agree to hear these people speak, or would you deny them their ability to speak?
I have no problem listening.
Okay. I think there's a unanimous consent. I'm going to call Mr. Campbell, who has requested to make a more formal presentation. He's from Lake Watch at Lake Martin, as I understand.
That's correct.
And we welcome you to the commission.
Well, thank you, Dr. Miller, and thank you, commission members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm here because I'm a clean water, clean environment advocate, and I think everybody in this place is probably the same way, and so I feel comfortable and proud to be amongst you. I'm going to leave this on. If you can't hear me, let me know and I'll take it off. I have submitted comment letters and materials into the record regarding the proposed amendment to 335-6-7-11 regarding CAFOs. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Lake Watch and a great number of other citizens who are concerned about CAFO regulations. I want to tell you, you know, it was mentioned earlier about involvement with Lake Watch and what happens if we support, Scott Hughes mentioned Lake Watch. I want to tell you that I'm a board member of Lake Watch of Lake Martin. I'm also a volunteer water quality monitor trained through Alabama Water Watch. I've been for 15 years. And I'm also trained through the Alabama Watershed Stewards Program, Alabama Watershed Stewards Program, of which ADEM is a program sponsor. And we're supposed, according to that, to get together and have a Watershed Stewards Program, have members and participate you know, I don't want myself or anybody who's a citizen advocate to feel like we're blowhards and nobody's listening to us. And I don't really feel that way, but I'm frosted a little bit about the way we have not had an opportunity to participate in this and what we feel like are shortcomings in the notice and the outreach and the opportunity to participate. And I really want to urge that we want that opportunity going forward. We want a good working relationship with ADEM. And, you know, I feel like we probably have that, but I think it could be improved. And the only way to do that, I think, is to let them know what we want. So I'm speaking on behalf of Lake Watch and on the great number of interested citizens in my community, from whom you heard by way of letters from a lot of these citizens. And these are members of Lake Watch. They're also members of Lake Martin Resource Association. I think some 1,400 volunteer Lake Martin interested persons. Mr. John Thompson, the president of LMRA, is here today. We also greatly appreciate the presence here today of our legislative representative, Mr. Ed Oliver, and thank Ed for following our issues and our concerns at Lake Martin. Our message is this: we are citizens who love Lake Martin. It is immensely important to us that we protect our water quality. Lake Martin is surely the economic engine of our community. All due respect to the poultry industry in the state of Alabama, Lake Martin is our economic engine. And it's also our lifestyle and our ethos. Plenty of people here recreate on Lake Martin. All across the state, there are places like Lake Martin, but not exactly like Lake Martin, in that the lake has, the lake has a designation of treasured Alabama lake. Under the ADEM regulations, they're entitled to certain special protections under the existing ADEM rules. And so when it came to our attention that the ADEM rules were going to be changed with respect to CAFOs, that caused us concern. We started looking into it. And I, for one, was able to navigate the ADEM website and find this stuff, but it took quite a doing. I'd almost challenge any normal human being, you might say, especially an old guy, to be able to find this on the website. All due respect, of course, to Director LaFleur's presentation earlier, that this is cost effective, and he's very proud of his electronic RT stuff. We find that it has not really been effective in this case in notifying the public and providing for participation from the public. So that's part, I tell you, this is our message. This is our message. Our message is that we want to participate as partners with ADEM in the decisions that affect Lake Martin and our watershed and our community. Specifically, we want to participate right now in decisions that regard the regulation of CAFOs. Now, that's not the only thing that we're interested in. That happens to be what's on the agenda today. That's the reason why we're here talking about CAFOs. It's not that we don't care about other things, other advocacy that's important and imperative in maintaining clean water. But today, the brush fire is CAFOs. And I think it's really probably, in our opinion at Lake Watch, perhaps the biggest immediate concern that threatens our water quality. We're always concerned about municipal waste and such as that. We're concerned somewhat about, let me just use those two examples. But right now, we're concerned that our water is being degraded by the poultry industry and ever-increasing numbers of CAFOs in our watershed. I believe Scott Hughes mentioned that we had, or maybe Director LaFleur, that we had 1,000 that we're at now. 1,000 concentrated animal feeding operations. Now, I really want to urge that our farmers are not the villain. The farmers in our little watershed Tallapoosa County, Randolph County, Clay County. These are not the villains. The villain is the sheer size of the poultry industry itself, the sheer magnitude of the animal waste that we're being called upon to absorb, the sheer magnitude of the waste that's being presented. We believe that our water is currently being degraded by that. And we believe that in part because Lake Watch goes out and has gone out and found alarmingly high water test numbers that show fecal E. coli counts that are loading into the streams, tributary streams of the Tallapoosa River and then on into, in due course, into Lake Martin. Our water quality in Lake Martin is excellent, but if we don't take a watershed approach, then we're going to lose Lake Martin in due course. So we take a whole watershed approach. I think that's exactly what ADEM would tell us that we need to do. That's exactly what the university people tell us we need to do. And that's what we want to do. So I'm going to tell you what we've decided, I think, that we want to advocate is that we're in favor of regulations, ADEM regulations, because we're talking about a particular change that happened today. It's one part of a huge bunch of regulations. I'm sure there's lots of things that can be improved, but we're in favor of regulations that explain from the top down what's expected of the poultry industry and what's expected of the CAFOs in our watershed, and this is statewide application, of course, but I can only speak from, the way for me to be effective is to speak from my own watershed. We are in favor of ADEM rules that limit the expansion of the poultry industry in our watershed. I don't want to close down any farmer that already is there. They're not the villains, but it has been suggested, not just by Lake Watch, but by well, if you please, I submitted into the record an article from the Association of Public Health, American Public Health Association. I think this is an entity that's been in existence for 140 years, and it's got 30,000 peer members of the public health community, and they have a nice long article that addresses the alarm that we should all have and with regard to public health and environmental degradation that we have to be careful of. And they call for a moratorium. Now this is, I commend that to you. I know there's an awful lot of stuff that you have to do, but I wish you'd read that, and I want to be sure that we all are aware that this is not just a hair on fire alarm that Lake Watch has. Everybody's got to be aware of the university publications, of the public health service publications, of the scholarly articles and such that address the problem of CAFOs, and be sure that we're finding the right balance point between the poultry industry in our state and the clean water in our state. I want both. I don't want one or the other. I want both. And so do you. So does everybody here. One thing that I also want to do is to do my share for Lake Watch. And that means, once again, that I need to participate. I was mentioning things that we were in favor of. I think that we're in favor of, and this is really about universities telling us what we're in favor of and NRCS telling us what we're in favor of. But I'm advocating part by rules that would help the farmers move CAFO animal waste out of our watershed. And it's not just about moving it out of Tallapoosa County and into some other county. We all have to love our downstream neighbor, as the saying in the community, in the water thing. You got to love your downstream. So I'm not just trying to move it, but where we are, we're in the Piedmont. Our land has clay soil close to the top, and it's sloped. So we got more problem about runoff than they're going to have down in the coastal plain, or putting CAFO on such things as. So I say we want to move the CAFO animal waste out of our watershed and do what? Well, do what the universities and the NRCS tells us is the best practice is to put it on row crops and make use of it. And right now, they've mostly been concerned about how to best use poultry litter as a fertilizer and access the nitrogen in it so that it helps the crops grow. That's the main thing that the universities and the NRCS have been talking about. We got to start getting them to talk a little bit more about how to overcome the pathogen load and overcome, perhaps by composting. We're in favor of composting that would reduce the biological pathogen or diminish biological pathogen. That's not really done. That's not really done when they talk in the CAFO industry about composting. It's one of the ways that they dispose of their bird or animal of their bird mortality, but not the way they dispose of. They don't generally dispose of, as I understand it, of their litter, their poultry manure by way of composting, and that's perhaps a good idea. I'm advocating for it, and we need the university and the NRCS to tell us that. Now, I want to make this point. The record in the ADEM public hearing November 4th shows that only 2 comment letters had been received. It's not my purpose, incidentally, to criticize. I wrote the comment letters. In fact, I wrote 2 comment letters during the, and I addressed the ADEM.
You need to wrap it up. You're 3 minutes over already.
No, sir, I'm 10 minutes. Isn't that correct, Your Honor?
Yeah, but you're at 13:21 right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I am long-winded. Well, let me say, let me do get to it. Let me get to the point. Let me mention 2 things that are really important. One is that we want to participate as partners with ADEM in the decisions that affect our community. We want a little more effective public notice. You've gotten a lot of letters from people who were frustrated because they didn't know that this was happening. All due respect to the notices on the computer, something more needs to be done. Something more needs to be done to improve that. And I want to say that today, this is my finale. Today, the Commission has approved the amendments, so state permit coverage for CAFOs has begun. But still, at present, rule requirements applicable to state-registered facilities, I hope, do not fully exist. Those rules have to be developed, and I ask that ADEM does please find a way to involve our citizens, Lake Watch, Lake Martin Resource Association, City of Alexander City, and Dadeville, and our waterworks in the development of those rules. We want to participate. We want to help. We want to know what's going on. We want to participate as partners with ADEM in the decisions that affect our watershed and our community and Lake Martin. I wish I had another half an hour to talk, but thank you for my time.
You are aware that ADEM has nothing to do with where a CAFO is placed, is that right?
Well, you know,
I mean, they could build one right across the street here. That has nothing. All we do is govern their environmental restrictions and regulations. We do not tell them where they can place it.
you do tell them where, I do understand that, and I heard that mentioned today, and I didn't really know. I'm kind of a new, I'm not trained as an environmental lawyer. I didn't know about that. This is news to me. It's a big learning process, but I'm doing my best. And I understand now that CAFOs cannot be told by ADEM, well, I've heard it said before, we can't tell a farmer what to grow on a farm. Well, no, but they can, you know, in the existing permit process, you can tell him how to do it. And you specifically can tell him where and how to dispose of his poultry litter by dispersing it on the surface of the land. Because if that poultry litter dispersed on the surface of the land gets washed off during a rain event into the waters of the state, then you have the definition, I believe, of a non-point source pollution.
That's right.
So they can, you know, that's, I guess that's, that's what I understand.
Okay. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Now we have Mr. John Thompson.
John is, I know is next door, so I guess he'll be coming right in.
How about Jesse Cunningham?
I'm here.
Did I hear someone say I'm here? Okay, please come up. You are allowed 3 minutes, Mr. Cunningham.
I won't use it all. I'll give some of it back.
All right.
I'm Jesse Cunningham. I am with the Lake Martin Hobos, which is Homeowners and Boat Owners Association. And I'm also on the board at Lake Watch. And the point that what I was going to say and what I'm going to say is two different things. Because what I have seen at this meeting, I think is, if I had to make a suggestion for an improvement, is communication between ADEM and the rest of the world. We had, how many proposals got up and how many comments were received by the 5 million people that live in Alabama? This is the only one that received more than 1 or 2 comments. And you know, you can say, well, you know, it's on our website, it's on this or that. But I think ADEM could do a better job of communicating with the population on things that really do mean something to the population of Alabama, of which Lake Martin, just for your information, if you hadn't been there, there's 7,500 homes on Lake Martin, and 2,500 of those homes are occupied full time. And so it's a fairly significant piece of Alabama. And just for further information, 60% of all property tax revenue in the Tallapoosa County comes off of the lake. And it's a very small portion of the county. But the CAFO problem is real. You know, there are a lot of things that can be said. We're going to do local inspections. You said 200 year inspections now that you'll be able to do. How many CAFO farms are there out there? 1,000?
Roughly 1,000.
Okay, so that's once every 5 years they'll get inspected. Who knows what goes on in between? It's up to the population to do that. Now, I will say ADEM has done a great job when we asked for their help. Lake Watch took legal action against the city of Alex City, against the city of Dadeville, and against the city of Camp Hill on sewage treatment plants. ADEM forced all 3. Camp Hill is not done yet, hadn't started yet, but they did take action against those cities, and it did work, and we appreciate that. We had residents just recently that we had to advise to go to ADEM on rain erosion on a construction project that was going on. It was going directly into the lake. They took action quickly. We appreciate that. And I think that the communication needs to work in both directions. That's the primary thing at this point. I hope everything works well with the CAFOs. We're going to keep an eye on it. And I think that your letters, I know you received a letter that showed the amount of pollution that is being found in the creeks headed to Lake Martin. And just be conscious of it, please. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Director, if the people in the Lake Watch and these other organizations wish to be on the email list of everything that's being proposed for rule changes, can they not just add their name to the list?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There you are.
We invite
And that way you'll know everything that's coming up.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Are things like this published in the newspaper anywhere, or is it strictly on the website?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
published, this is statewide regulation. It's published in the statewide circulation newspapers, Huntsville, Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery. And we can get you on that email list to give you a signal anytime you would like to. If you'll be here at the end, we'll sign you up and get you going. And we also, it's published at the Administrative Monthly for the legislature. And we try to reach out, but we're looking for ways to do it better. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Is Mr. Thompson returned yet?
He's here.
There he is.
I'm here.
Come on up. You also have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think I can probably do it in less than that, but I'm about as far out of my comfort zone as I've ever been. So I'll tell you, started out with that.
There's nobody mean here.
I know you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate this opportunity. Actually, this is not my first time out here. Early on, when the gentleman talked about the early certification of volunteer water testers, and I was one of those involved at that time with some employees of ADEM, and we were very involved in Catoma Creek as a 303D listed stream, heavily polluted. That was one of the areas that we concentrated on, and we never ever saw any change of any of the values as we were doing the testing. No matter what took place or what was done to try to do something about cleaning up that body of water, it never happened. So it's still the same way today. And that's the thing that I'm concerned about going forward. Our organization is actually focused on preserving and protecting Lake Martin for future generations. And my fear is that without a strong policing of the areas, the Muckfall, Fox Creek, all the creeks that flow into that are gorgeous, they're absolutely beautiful, and they have a lot of recreation. I mean, it's not the streams flowing there. People are actually on those streams enjoying the clean water that flows into Lake Martin there. So any degradation or any kind of change that harms it, it affects people, and it affects them rather quickly. Our organization is focused on cleaning up Lake Martin to the point that there is no trash on the lake. And we've been very successful over the last 15 years. We've pulled 160 tons of trash that had been there since the lake was ever formed. A lot of it has been. Some of it has been dumped in there more recently, but for the most part it was old trash. But it's coming off, and we've got a very big lake, but we're getting the trash off of it. What we're talking about here today is an unseen. We can't do anything about that without ADEM's help. We can do the water testing. We can find the problem. We see the E. coli after the heavy rains, but that's where we need ADEM to step in. I'm going to tell a quick story and then I'm done. Back in the early 70s, there was an awful lot of a group of us before the dam was built at Wedowee that did a lot of canoeing on the Tallapoosa River. And one Sunday afternoon, we had our usual group, and we'd go up to Germany's Ferry Bridge, and we're going to put in there. Beautiful day. It had been raining a lot last week, but the water was starting to recede. It had been high, it was dropping down. We pulled up to that location to take our canoes out and float down the river. And as far as we could see, on both sides of the river was dead chicken carcasses. The smell was overwhelming. It would absolutely take your breath. But the sight is one that I've never forgotten. And that was one of those things that how could that happen? Could we have done something that could have prevented that? I don't know. But the thought of that occurring again, if we don't really regulate and make sure that what's going on as far as the chicken farms are concerned, that could happen again. I appreciate the time, and I think we can support, I like some of the things I heard, but I just want to make sure that they're going to be done, and that we can do the kind of things that we can to protect Lake Martin. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Okay, that brings us to the final item, which is someone needs to make a motion that we adjourn. Do I hear such a motion? And, all in favor, say aye.